The world is frozen. Everyone is starving. And one man is still eating hot food inside a warm apartment. Outside his windows, the city is buried under white silence. Power lines hang dead. Water pipes have burst. Every grocery store is empty. Every stairwell smells like fear. People who once wore suits and designer coats now fight over a single frozen bread roll. Mothers boil snow in cracked bowls. Rich men trade gold watches for a cup of instant noodles. Neighbors listen through walls, not for music, but for chewing. And above them all, on the 17th floor of Tower C, Zero Arlen sits beside a glowing heater with beef stew, roast chicken, warm rice, fresh fruit, cold soda, and enough food to feed the entire building. That should be impossible. The supermarkets are gone. The roads are buried. The government broadcasts have stopped. The temperature outside is low enough to turn breath into frost before it leaves your mouth. But Zero opens his hand. A black system window flashes. Dimensional storage, meal replicated. Another plate appears. Perfect, hot, fresh, unlimited. The starving people below do not know how he has it. They only know one thing. He has food. And once hungry people discover a warm room full of endless meals, they do not ask politely for long. So how did one warehouse worker become the only man with unlimited food at home? And what happens when an entire frozen city decides his door is the last thing standing between them and survival? For head with NA. At first, the sound outside the apartment is not screaming. It is knocking. Soft knocking, polite knocking. The kind of sound neighbors make when they still want to pretend they are civilized. Zero hears it through 3 layers of reinforced steel while he lifts another spoonful of stew to his mouth. Steam curls up from the bowl. The meat is soft enough to split with the side of the spoon. Outside, the knocking becomes harder. A woman's voice comes through the intercom. She says her child has not eaten in 2 days. A man behind her says he can pay. Another says Zero should remember they all live in the same building. Someone else whispers that if he has enough to cook meat, he has enough to share. Zero does not answer yet. He looks at the cameras. 9 people outside his door. 3 holding empty containers. 2 hiding knives inside their sleeves. 1 pretending to cry, but watching the lock. 1 old man who looks genuinely desperate. And behind them, in the stairwell shadow, a man filming everything with the last battery on his phone. That is the new world. Hunger at the front. Greed behind it. Evidence in the corner. Zero finishes his stew before touching the intercom. The hallway goes silent when his voice arrives. What are you offering? The woman says, money. Zero asks what money buys when every store is under snow. The man says, jewelry. Zero asks if gold can be boiled into soup. The old man says labor. That makes Zero pause, not because he needs labor. Because the old man understands the first rule. The world has not ended. It has repriced everything. Zero says he will accept work contracts tomorrow, after sunrise. The people in front grumble. The knives stay hidden. Then the man in the stairwell mutters that Zero is bluffing. Nobody can have that much food. Nobody can eat like that forever. Zero looks at the endless inventory window only he can see. Rows of meals, soups, bread, water, medicine, fruit. Every item with a glowing infinity mark beside it. He smiles for the first time that night. Then the freezer outside groans as another pipe bursts somewhere in the wall. The hallway people flinch. Zero turns the intercom off and lets them stand there in the cold with the question he wants the whole building asking. How much food does he really have? And what will he demand when everyone runs out? 3 months before the freeze, Zero Arlen is not a king. He is not a leader. He is not even respected. He works the night shift at North Star Fulfillment, a massive warehouse on the edge of Ravenfall City. He lifts boxes until his back aches. He drinks cheap coffee from a vending machine. He sends most of his money to a woman named Ligma Vale, the girl he has loved for years. In his first life, that loyalty destroys him. When the world freezes, Zero prepares better than most. He has a few months of food. He has a locked apartment. He has blankets, portable heaters, and a reinforced door he installed because of a rumor he once ignored. But he makes one mistake. He trusts Ligma. She sends him a message while the city is starving. She says she is alone. She says she is freezing. She says she always loved him, and if he opens the door, she will stay with him forever. Zero believes her. The moment the lock turns, she steps back. A group of neighbors rushes in. They take his supplies. They tear apart his apartment, Ligma does not even look guilty. She tells him, this is how the new world works. Strong people eat. Weak people become food for the strong. As Zero lies on the freezing floor, watching his own breath fade in the air, he understands everything too late. The apocalypse did not create monsters. It only removed the doors hiding them. His last thought is not about revenge, not at first. It is simpler than that. If he could live again, he would never open the door. Then darkness takes him, and a voice answers, Cold start protocol accepted. Timeline reset authorized. Host has awakened, dimensional storage system. Zero opens his eyes at his desk. The warehouse office lights hum overhead. His phone says it is September 10th. 3 months before the freeze, and in the corner of his vision, a black inventory window waits for him. In the first timeline, Zero does not understand scarcity fast enough. He believes the storm will end. He believes emergency teams will arrive. He believes Ligma is selfish but not evil. Those beliefs cost him everything. The first week after the freeze, he survives better than most. He has canned food. He has 2 portable heaters. He has bottled water stacked under his bed. He even has enough instant noodles to joke that he could become a noodle salesman after rescue. Then the rescue never comes. The second week, the building chat turns vicious. People start listing who bought groceries before the freeze. Someone remembers Zero carrying boxes. Someone else remembers his reinforced door. Ligma sends him sweet messages every night. She says everyone else is turning ugly. She says she knows Zero is different. She says she should have chosen him properly before the world ended. Zero wants to believe her because loneliness is a kind of hunger too. By the third week, the hallway outside his apartment is quiet in a way that makes him nervous. Not empty. Waiting. Ligma comes alone, or at least that is what the peephole shows. Her lips are blue. Her hands tremble. She says Celia died. She says she has nowhere else to go. She says she will freeze if he leaves her there. The old Zero opens the door because he still thinks saving someone will make the apocalypse less ugly. Ligma steps inside and hugs him. Then she whispers, sorry. The people hiding beside the door rush in. Zero is knocked down before he can reach the second lock. He sees shoes crossing his floor, hands ripping open cabinets. Someone laughing when they find the water. Someone shouting that he lied about being poor. Ligma stands beside his dining table and watches others take everything. Zero asks why. She says because he would have hoarded it anyway. She says this is better for everyone. But when someone asks if the food should be shared with the whole building, Ligma says no, they should secure it first. That is when Zero understands the truth. People do not betray you because they need to survive. They need to survive, and then they use that need to excuse what they already wanted. As he lies freezing, he watches Ligma eat his last piece of chocolate. Not because she is starving, because she can. That memory becomes the center of the second timeline. Not the pain, not the death, the sound of someone chewing what he had saved. In his new life, every meal he creates from dimensional storage system carries that memory underneath it. Every hot plate is revenge. Every locked door is a promise. And every time someone says the word share, Zero hears Ligma's voice saying sorry as she stepped aside. Card. When Zero wakes in the warehouse office, the first thing he does is touch his throat. No frost. No blood, no pain. His fingers tremble anyway. For several seconds he cannot move because his mind is still on that apartment floor, still hearing Ligma's voice, still seeing strangers tear open cabinets he spent months filling. Then the office printer starts humming. That ordinary sound brings him back harder than any alarm. He looks around. Coffee machine. Inventory sheets. A half-dead plant beside the monitor. Rain tapping against the office window instead of black snow. The world has not ended yet. That one word matters. Yet. His phone lights up. Ligma again. Did you fall asleep at work? Call me. In his old life, he would have called before the second message. He would have apologized. He would have asked if she needed money. Now he stares at the screen until it goes dark. The phone lights again. Zero, he whispers to the empty office, I opened the door for you. The system window appears like it heard him. Dimensional storage system, active. Template acquisition available. Host status, timeline, displaced. That confirms the impossible. He is not dreaming. The future happened. He died. Now he is back. A weaker man might run to the police. A kinder man might warn the city. A romantic fool might try to save Ligma from becoming what she became. Zero does none of those things. He opens a blank document on his computer and writes 4 headings. Food, shelter, weapons, people. Under people, he writes 3 smaller words. Useful, dangerous, already dead. Then he stops, looks at Ligma's message again, and moves her name into the 3rd category, not because she is physically dead, because the version of her he loved is. That is the first clean decision of his second life. No speeches, no begging, no warning, the traitor who taught him not to trust warnings. He takes the sandwich from his desk, stores it, duplicates it, and watches reality bend around hunger. The office smells like mustard and rain. Zero smiles. The apocalypse has given him one mercy. This time, he gets to prepare with his eyes open. And at first, Zero thinks he is hallucinating. The warehouse is normal. The city outside is normal. His body has no wounds. His apartment has not been raided. Ligma has not betrayed him yet. But the black window is still there. SYSTM Natus. Cold Arc. Interface online. Host confirmed. Zero Arlen. Awakened ability. Dimensional storage system. Current rank level 1. Emergency vault. Primary module. Spatial storage. Unlocked submodule. Consumable template replication. Zero reads the words twice. Not a cupboard. Not a bag. A dimensional space. A private warehouse folded outside the world. Then the next messages appear. Level 1. Rules. 1. Physical items may be stored if the host can touch them. 2. Living organisms are rejected. 3. Stored items remain locked at the moment of storage. 4. Food, drink, and approved medicine may be imprinted as consumable templates. 5. Completed consumable templates may be reproduced. 6. Reproduction costs system energy. System energy recovers over time and rises with level. 7. Higher quality consumables require longer imprint time. 8. Tools, weapons, machines, and fuel may be stored but cannot be reproduced at level 1. That last line matters. It means he cannot duplicate guns. He cannot duplicate generators. He cannot duplicate gasoline, but food is different. Food can become a template, and once the template is complete, the system can make it again. He grabs the sandwich from his desk. 1 bite missing. Cheap bread. Cold chicken. Too much mustard. He presses it into the black inventory window. The sandwich vanishes. Item stored. Consumable detected. Template imprint available. Begin imprint. Zero chooses yes. A tiny progress bar appears. Basic meal template imprinting, 1%, 7%, 19%, 19%. The progress takes less than a minute. When it finishes, the screen flashes. Template registered, warehouse chicken sandwich. Category, basic meal. Replication cost, 1 system energy. Current system energy, 100 and 100. Zero holds out his hand and thinks of the sandwich. Replication request accepted. A second later, a whole sandwich appears in his palm. Fresh. Warm. No missing bite. He stares at it for 10 full seconds. Then he laughs. Quietly at first. Then so hard his chest hurts. In his first life, he had food. In this life, he has a system that can turn one meal into a permanent template. That is why the title is true. If Zero can collect enough templates before the freeze, then while the world starves, he will have unlimited food at home. But the system is not free. The second sandwich drops his energy from 100 to 99. The number recovers slowly, 1 point every few minutes. Basic meals cost almost nothing. Luxury meals cost more. Medicine costs more. Special items may require level unlocks. Then the final message appears. Dimensional storage EXP sources unlocked. New consumable template. Rare material storage. Bulk storage milestone. Survival crisis cleared. Awakened energy contact. Current EXP 0 wise to 100. Zero leans back in his chair. Now he understands the real game. The apocalypse is not only a disaster, it is a leveling field. Food templates, water templates, medicine templates, luxury meals, cheap meals, high-calorie meals, baby formula, electrolytes, coffee, soup, alcohol, anything that might matter when the world becomes one giant freezer. Every template makes the system stronger. Every storage milestone pushes him closer to the next level. And every level will unlock something the old timeline never gave him. He checks the calendar. 3 months. 90 days to turn an ordinary apartment into the warmest fortress in Ravenfall. 90 days to fill a dimensional vault. 90 days to become the man no one can starve. Then his phone rings. Ligma. In his old life, he would have smiled. This time, he watches her name flash on the screen and feels nothing. He declines the call. A message arrives seconds later. "Are you mad at me?" Zero types one line. Busy. Then he opens a banking app, checks his credit, and begins planning how to spend money that will become worthless in 90 days. Zero does not trust the word unlimited right away. A starving man believes miracles too quickly. A survivor tests them. The first test is simple. He reproduces the sandwich 10 times, then 50, then 100. The taste never changes. The bread never dries. The chicken never spoils. The dimensional storage system window does not drain, flicker, or complain. Then he stores a bottle of water. A new one appears in his hand, then another. Then another. The system marks water as a basic template. No cooldown, no cost. Zero sits in the office with a mountain of identical sandwiches and bottles around his feet, and suddenly the world makes sense in a terrifying new way. The freeze will kill people because supply chains die. His power is a private supply chain that cannot die. But the second test is just as important. He stores a pocket knife. The knife enters the inventory. He calls it back. The same knife returns. No duplicate. He tries again. Nothing. The system warns him. Non-consumable template cannot be reproduced. He stores a battery. Same result. He stores gasoline. Preserved, not duplicated. He stores a cooked hamburger. Duplicated. He stores raw beef. Duplicated only after full food imprint. He stores medicine. Some can be copied, some cannot. Anything classified by the system as consumable has a chance. Anything classified as tool, machine, weapon, or fuel becomes storage only. This is not a God mode cheat. It is a food empire. Zero can keep people alive forever, but only if he can keep machines running, doors locked, and enemies outside. That shapes every later decision. The apartment renovation is not paranoia. It is the shell around the miracle. Because the power solves hunger. It does not solve betrayal. It does not solve bullets. It does not solve mobs. It does not solve someone smiling while asking to come inside. Zero looks at the sandwiches on the floor and thinks of Ligma eating his last chocolate in the old timeline. He deletes her number again. Not because he is angry, because anger fades. Systems remain. From that moment on, he begins thinking like the owner of something more valuable than money, gold, or land. He owns the only spring in a desert, the only fire in winter, the only kitchen in the end of the world. And if anyone discovers the truth too early, the kitchen becomes a target. So, his first real project is not collecting food. It is building a lie big enough to hide the truth. But Zero's first stop is not a gun store, not a hardware store. Not even the warehouse floor. It is the most expensive restaurant in the city. In his first life, he ate canned beans in the dark. Now he sits alone under gold lighting while waiters bring steak, lobster, roasted duck, truffle pasta, fruit platters, desserts, soups, and wine he cannot even pronounce. Every plate touches his palm for 1 second. Then it enters. Dimensional storage system. Template stored. Template stored. Template stored. A waiter asks if he is celebrating something. Zero smiles. The end of the world. The waiter laughs because he thinks it is a joke. By the time Zero leaves, the bill is absurd. He pays with a credit card and does not blink. The system window flickers in the corner of his vision. New consumable templates registered, 47. Luxury template class unlocked. Dimensional storage EXP, 41,600. System energy cap increased, 100 and 100. One dinner has made him stronger, not because he ate it. Because the vault remembered it. Outside the restaurant, Ligma spots him with her friend Celia. Ligma's eyes widen at the expensive bag in his hand. Celia whispers that maybe the warehouse loser finally won money. Ligma changes her expression instantly. Soft smile. Gentle eyes. The same mask that fooled him in his first life. She asks why he has been ignoring her. Zero says he has been busy. Celia jokes that busy men should treat their friends. Ligma adds that she has been craving seafood. In his old life, Zero would have apologized and paid. This time, he studies them like inventory. Greed, entitlement. Useful only as a reminder. He invites them to the supermarket. They brighten at once, thinking he is about to spend money on them. At the supermarket, Zero fills cart after cart. Rice, flour, noodles, canned meat, chocolate, coffee, baby food, spices, tea, freeze-dried fruit, powdered milk, electrolyte drinks, every kind of instant meal. Ligma and Celia carry bags until their arms ache. They complain the entire time. Zero only smiles. At the exit, an elderly neighbor from his tower, Nora Finch, blocks his cart with her grandson. She says one young man cannot eat all that alone. Her grandson grabs a pack of candy from the cart and declares it his. Zero takes it back. The boy screams. Nora says Zero should be generous to children. Zero shows her his payment code. Then buy it. Nora's smile freezes. Ligma looks embarrassed. Celia mutters that Zero has become strange. Zero wheels his cart away. He lets them think he is petty. He lets them think he is showing off. In 3 months, every person who laughed at him will understand that he was not buying groceries. He was collecting the menu for the end of civilization. Ligma Vale is not stupid. That is why she is dangerous. She does not approach Zero with open greed at first. She tests him. A casual message, a complaint about bills, a photo from a cafe, a question about whether he still cares. Celia is less patient. She mocks him openly when they meet. She asks if warehouse men usually eat at luxury restaurants. She asks if he borrowed money. She asks if he is trying to impress Ligma. Zero answers each insult with calm politeness because he has seen both women in a worse world. In that world, Ligma hides behind softness. Celia hides behind jokes. When hunger comes, both masks break. During the supermarket trip, Ligma plays the gentle girl. She asks if he is stocking up because of anxiety. She says he should not isolate himself. She says people need each other. Zero asks if people need each other or if they need someone useful. Ligma laughs because she thinks he is being dramatic. Celia says usefulness is the whole point of relationships anyway. That answer tells Zero she will survive longer than most. Not because she is strong, because she is honest about being selfish. After the freeze, the two women become a pressure gauge for the story. At first, they act proud, then hungry, then charming, then accusing, then desperate, then dangerous. Each time they contact Zero, the viewer sees the apocalypse changing social rules. Before the freeze, Ligma could make Zero run with one soft message. After the freeze, Zero can make Ligma stare at soup through a screen and forget her pride. That reversal is satisfying because it is not random revenge. It is the old world being repriced. Ligma used to have beauty, status, emotional control, and Zero's devotion. Now, Zero has heat, food, medicine, and a door. The door beats beauty. The food beats status. The intercom beats emotional control. And devotion died in the first timeline. That is why her later attempts fail. She keeps speaking to the Zero who loved her, but that man froze to death on the floor 3 months from now. The man behind the Heatbox door is someone she helped create, and he is the one person she cannot manipulate anymore. For the next 30 days, Zero becomes a ghost with a credit card. He eats at restaurants across the city, but never for pleasure alone. Every meal is an acquisition. Every bite is a template test. A diner breakfast gives him pancakes, bacon, eggs, coffee, and orange juice. A Korean barbecue place gives him marinated beef, grilled pork, kimchi stew, and rice bowls. A bakery gives him bread, cakes, pastries, sandwiches, and sugar-dusted buns that will taste exactly the same even after the sun disappears behind snow clouds. He visits hospital cafeterias for bland but balanced meals. He visits children's stores for formula, snacks, and nutritional drinks. He buys survival food not because he needs it, but because other people will recognize it as survival food. He needs decoys, visible supplies, believable stores. A fortress full of endless meals is too impossible. A fortress owned by a paranoid man who bought too much food is easier for people to accept. That is the second rule. Never reveal a miracle if a smaller lie will do. The dimensional storage system grows every day. Zero organizes it like a library. Hot meals, cold meals, water, medicine, energy drinks, comfort foods, trade foods, children's foods, high-calorie emergency foods, luxury foods for psychological pressure. The luxury category becomes his favorite weapon. Ordinary rice keeps people alive. Roast duck makes them desperate. A hungry person might bargain for noodles. A starving person who smells steak through a wall might betray a gang leader. Zero also learns what dimensional storage system refuses. It will not copy living creatures. It will not duplicate complex machines. It will not reproduce bullets or fuel. It will preserve them, but each must be acquired honestly once. That means he still needs warehouses, hardware stores, medical suppliers, fuel depots. The world is ending, but logistics still matters. He spends evenings in his apartment reviewing spreadsheets while contractors install hidden plates into walls. Ligma texts him pictures of herself pretending to miss him. Nora complains in the building chat about renovation noise. Rusk says if the new door blocks hallway access, he will personally remove it. Zero saves every message. A person reveals themselves most clearly when they believe consequences are impossible. Soon, consequences will be the only currency left. Zero's apartment is on the 17th floor of Tower C in Ashford Heights. The complex has 30 towers. Over 8,000 residents, doctors, executives, retirees, workers, students. People who believe concrete, elevators, cameras, and property managers are enough to make the world civilized. Zero knows better. He mortgages his apartment. He empties his savings. He maxes every card. He sells his car. He sells collectibles. He even sells watches Ligma once admired just because the thought of her seeing them again disgusts him. Then he hires a private security renovation company. The project manager laughs at first. Zero's requirements sound insane. A vault-grade front door, reinforced interior wall plates, bullet-resistant balcony glass, independent air filtration, thermal insulation, emergency battery wall, mechanical locks, not just smart locks, cameras in every hallway, cameras on every stairwell landing, cameras hidden above elevator doors, a manual water system, a compact indoor greenhouse cabinet, a concealed storage room, multiple heat sources, and most importantly, no single point of failure. The manager asks what kind of enemy Zero has. Zero says, hungry ones. The manager laughs again. Then Zero pays the deposit in full. After that, nobody laughs. For weeks, neighbors complain about drilling. Nora accuses him in the building chat of disturbing the peace. Rusk Calder, a construction boss from the lower floors, calls him paranoid. Ligma texts that people are saying Zero lost his mind. Celia posts a blurry picture of workers carrying metal panels into his apartment. The building chat fills with jokes. Is he building a bank vault? Maybe he thinks zombies are coming. Someone check on him. No, let him waste his money. Zero reads every message while eating fresh noodles summoned from the dimensional storage system. Replication request accepted, spicy beef noodles. System energy, 108-120. The chat calls him crazy. The system calls him prepared. He does not defend himself. Defense is for people who want approval. He wants survival. At the same time, he collects food templates every day. 500 restaurant meals. Every grocery category he can find. Pharmacy supplies, pet food, baby formula, protein powder, clean water, hot tea, soups, medicinal broths. He learns the imprint rule. Once a template is complete, the reproduced food never spoils, never runs out, and tastes exactly like the original. The more complete the template library, the more powerful he becomes. On the 30th day, the black window changes. Dimensional storage EXP threshold reached. Level increased, level 1, level 2. New rank, bulk vault. New ability unlocked, batch storage. New ability unlocked, auto sort index. Consumable replication efficiency improved by 20%. Zero looks at the message and understands the hidden curve. The ability is not just storage. It grows with use. It rewards preparation. It rewards greed with discipline. Food is not just food. It is leverage, comfort, medicine, loyalty. A weapon with no blade. When the apartment renovation finishes, Zero names it the Heatbox. It is still only one apartment. But behind that door, winter has already lost. 3 days before the freeze, the weather changes. The sky over Ravenfall turns pale green at night. Birds fly south in frantic waves. Weather apps crash, then return with normal forecasts. News anchors call it a rare atmospheric event. Zero knows the language of reassurance. He heard it in his first life. Temporary cold front. Unexpected polar shift. Authorities are prepared. Remain calm. By the time they admitted the truth, most people were already out of food. Zero spends his final pre-freeze day at North Star Fulfillment. As shift supervisor, he knows the cameras, loading schedules, blind spots, and emergency shutters. He also knows the warehouse has just received government cold weather stock. Thermal suits. Portable heaters. Medical crates. Fuel cells. Water barrels. High-calorie rations. In the first timeline, those supplies vanished into official channels before ordinary people saw a single box. This time, Zero moves first. He does not use complicated tricks. He waits until the night crew settles into routine. A false system error darkens part of the camera grid. The loading dock doors cycle. Dimensional storage system opens. Crate after crate disappears into the black inventory space, not copied. Stored. Tools. Fuel. Clothing. Generators. Communication equipment. Medical equipment. Enough practical supplies to make the Heatbox more than a warm room. By morning, half the warehouse is empty. Nobody understands how. No trucks came. No forklifts moved outside. No camera shows thieves leaving. Police question the whole shift. Zero looks tired and confused like everyone else. The manager accuses him because of his supervisor. Zero gives the same answer to every question. He does not know. He was there. He saw nothing. The police cannot prove anything. They tell him not to leave the city. Zero almost laughs. Leave? In 48 hours, nobody will be able to cross the street. While the police argue over missing trucks, Zero's system records the truth. Bulk storage milestone cleared. Stored mass exceeded 100 tons. Rare material detected. Arctic survival equipment. Dimensional storage EXP threshold reached. Level increased. Level 2, Level 3. New rank, Cold Arc Vault. New ability unlocked, Quick Retrieval. New ability unlocked, Shelter Sink. Shelter Sink may bind one prepared residence as the host's primary safe zone. The moment he reads that line, the Heatbox becomes more than construction. It becomes part of the system. That night, the first snow falls. Light at first, beautiful. Children point from balconies. Neighbors take videos. Ligma posts a selfie with the caption, "Ravenfall looks magical." Zero stands behind his reinforced glass and watches flakes drift past the city lights. In his first life, this was the last pretty thing the city ever saw. By morning, beauty becomes weight. By the next night, weight becomes a wall. And 3 days after the warehouse vanishes, the world freezes. The temperature falls 80 degrees in one night. World. Event detected. Cold cataclysm. Phase 1 initiated. External temperature falling. Infrastructure failure probability 93%. Primary safe zone Heatbox. Shelter Sink active. Comfort index 98/100. Warning. Hostile survivor behavior will increase as scarcity rises. At first, people think their weather apps are broken. Then the power grid buckles. Elevators stop between floors. Water pipes split open. Cars vanish under rising snow. The first people who rush outside do not understand the danger. Some try to film. Some try to dig out vehicles. Some think they can run to nearby stores before the storm worsens. They learn too late that the snow itself is poisonous to exposed skin, not airborne. Not contagious. But direct contact burns like frozen acid. Within hours, every resident of Ashford Heights knows not to touch the black-white snow. The courtyard goes silent. The building chat explodes. Does anyone have water? My child has a fever. The heat is dead. The committee says rescue is coming. Do not panic. Who has extra food? Zero sits at his dining table in a t-shirt. A heat unit glows blue beside the wall. A pot of beef stew simmers on an induction plate powered by his battery system. Fresh bread appears in his hand. Then, cold soda. Then sliced fruit. He opens the building chat and watches civilization become a comments section. Nora Finch, the committee manager, tells everyone the snow will last 2 or 3 days. She says the neighborhood office will coordinate support. She says hoarding will be reported. Zero knows what comes next. In the old timeline, Nora used authority to collect supplies from gullible residents and kept most of it for herself. This time, he is ready. Ligma calls him. Her face on video is pale. Celia huddles behind her under blankets. Ligma asks if he knew this would happen. Zero asks why she thinks that. She says he spent months buying food. He says he likes being prepared. She asks if she can come over. Zero does not answer right away. He turns the camera to the table. Then he lets the system speak for him. Retrieval request accepted, braised beef stew. A steaming bowl appears from the black vault window. Retrieval request accepted, roast chicken. A golden plate lands beside it. Retrieval request accepted, iced citrus soda. Perfect ice clinks inside the glass. Stew. Chicken. Fruit. Warm light. Ligma goes silent. Celia whispers that he has real food. Then Ligma sees the reflection of the system window in the balcony glass. Her eyes widen. Not because he stored food, because he just made food appear. Zero, she whispers, how are you doing that? He takes a bite of chicken slowly. For Ligma, the sound is louder than any insult. A week ago, she could make him spend money with one soft message. Now she cannot even make him pass a bowl through the door. Her voice softens. She says maybe they should talk about them. Zero drinks his soda. Go talk to the weather first. Then he ends the call. Shock payoff registered. Old emotional control failed. Host status over Ligma Vale reversed. On the other side of the complex, Ligma stares at the dead screen. For the first time in her life, she understands that the man she used to ignore is now above her. And Zero understands something too. The first stage of the apocalypse is cold. The second stage is hunger. The third stage is people finding out who still has food. By the 10th day of the freeze, Ashford Heights no longer sounds like an apartment complex. It sounds like a hospital without doctors. Coughing through vents, dragging footsteps in stairwells. Arguments behind closed doors, children asking the same question until adults snap. When will the lights come back? Zero knows the answer. Not soon enough to save them. He sits at his table wearing thin indoor clothes while the rest of the tower sleeps in coats. On the screen beside him, security cameras show stairwell landings covered in frost. A man on floor 12 is trying to melt snow in a metal bowl over a candle. A woman on floor 8 is cutting a vitamin tablet into pieces for 3 children. On floor 17, across from Zero's sealed door, Ligma stands with Celia. They have come in person this time. Ligma knocks softly. Zero lets her wait. Celia whispers that maybe he cannot hear. Ligma says he can hear. She knows Zero. Zero almost laughs. No! She knew the man who died. The man behind the door now is someone she has never met. He taps the intercom. What? Ligma flinches at the coldness. Then her voice turns soft. She says they should not be strangers at a time like this. Celia says they can pay him later. Ligma adds that she can help him clean, organize, whatever he needs. Zero asks what they ate today. Neither answers. He switches the hallway monitor to show his dining table through the inner camera. Not the storage room, not the vault. Just the table. Hot soup. Fried rice, a plate of sliced oranges. A glass of water with ice cubes. The two women stare at the small hallway screen like they have seen heaven. Celia starts crying before Ligma does. Ligma whispers that he really has food. Zero says no. I have dinner. Food is what people outside are fighting over. The distinction is cruel. That is why it works. Ligma asks what he wants. Zero says he already wanted something once. The hallway goes quiet. Ligma understands enough to look ashamed. Celia does not. She says the past is the past. Zero turns off the screen. The last image they see is him lifting the spoon. That night, the rumor spreads to every tower. The man in apartment 73 has hot food. Not cans, not scraps. Hot food. And in a frozen city, that phrase is more dangerous than any gunshot. Ooh. The first 2 days are denial. People complain about the government response. They joke about needing more blankets. They post pictures of snow piled against windows. They still believe the world has inconvenienced them, not ended. The third day is calculation. People count noodles. They count batteries. They count medicine. They start asking relatives in other districts for updates and receive no answers. The fifth day is bargaining. Jewelry for food. Cash for water. Designer bags for batteries. A luxury watch for 2 fever tablets. The 7th day is fear. Nobody laughs at Zero's renovation anymore. They remember his carts. His deliveries. The trucks outside his building. The strange security workers. The heavy door. The cameras. The quiet. A quiet apartment is suspicious when every other room echoes with coughing. The 10th day is hunger. Hunger strips language down. Please. Open. Just a little. My child, I can pay. You owe us. Zero watches the chat change from requests to accusations. A mother asks for food for her son. A retired accountant offers gold bars. A former gym owner offers protection. Nora offers committee approval. Ligma offers affection. Rusk offers threats. Zero answers almost none of them. Silence becomes part of his legend. People begin filling the silence with their own theories. He is dead. He escaped. He works for the government. He has a secret tunnel. He has a freezer room. He has nothing and is bluffing. Then, one night, Zero makes a mistake on purpose. He opens his balcony vent while cooking spicy beef soup. The scent drifts into the cold. Not far, just enough. The neighboring units notice first, then the floor above, then the floor below. By morning, half the building knows someone on 17 cooked meat. Rusk sends his first threat that afternoon. Ligma sends her first apology that evening. Nora sends her first official demand the next morning. Zero stores all 3 messages in a folder labeled predictable. The Heatbox has passed the first test. Now the humans begin theirs. Go. 1 week passes. The snow does not stop. The first floors disappear under drifts. Power is rationed, then lost. Phones work only when people charge them from hidden batteries or dying power banks. People start sleeping in stairwells because their apartments are too cold. The building chat changes tone. At first, people ask for updates. Then they ask for help. Then they ask who has supplies. Then they accuse. Nora Finch waits until panic ripens. Then she posts her announcement. Due to emergency conditions, the residential committee will collect all food and distribute it fairly. Refusal will be recorded and reported once order returns. For a moment, people believe her. They want fairness. They want someone to be in charge. They want to believe old rules still exist. Nora messages Zero privately. She says she saw him buy many supplies. She calls him nephew, even though they are not related. She says young people must contribute. Zero records the message. Then he replies in the public chat. Nora says she will collect everyone's food. I already ate mine. Please send me some when distribution starts. The chat stalls. Nora calls him selfish. He asks when she will distribute what she already collected. She says she needs time to sort it. A resident asks why sorting food takes 2 days. Another asks why Nora's grandson was seen eating canned fruit. Rusk Calder, the construction boss, joins the chat. He says if Nora collected food, she should distribute it. Nora tells everyone to calm down. But hunger does not calm down. By night, Rusk and his men break into Nora's apartment and take the collected supplies. Zero watches through hacked hallway cameras. He records enough to understand the new power structure. Nora's authority collapses. Rusk's violence rises. People cheer when Nora loses the food, not realizing the real lesson. Yesterday, one woman used fake authority to steal. Today, one man used force to steal from her. Tomorrow, he will use force on everyone else. Zero saves the recording, not out of pity. Information is food, too, and soon he will need to feed the building a story. Nora Finch begins the apocalypse with the strongest old-world position in the tower. She has keys. Contacts. A committee title. A reputation for knowing everyone's business. In normal life, that matters. In disaster, it matters for exactly as long as people still believe rescue will come. Nora senses the belief fading before most. That is why she moves quickly. Her food collection order uses old language. Community. Fairness. Temporary management. Official instruction. Record of contribution. She knows those phrases still have weight. People raised under systems obey paperwork even when the paper is imaginary. Some residents surrender food, not because they trust Nora, but because refusing makes them feel guilty. Zero's public reply breaks that spell. By pretending to be empty and asking Nora for food, he reveals the absurdity. If she is collecting for everyone, she must eventually distribute. If she cannot distribute now, she is not managing. She is hoarding. The chat turns on her slowly at first. A question, then another. Then screenshots, then accusations. Nora panics and doubles down. That is what weak authority does. Instead of adapting, it shouts louder in the language that just failed. Rusk understands the change faster. He does not argue law. He uses force. When he takes Nora's supplies, the residents cheer because they are hungry for justice, but they fail to notice that Rusk does not distribute either. This mini-arc matters because it teaches the audience the apocalypse's political ladder. First comes false authority. Then comes brute force. Then comes resource-backed rule. Nora represents the old world pretending. Rusk represents collapse. Zero represents the next system. Not good. Not kind. But functional. That is why the story should keep Nora's fall, even if her later scenes are trimmed. She is the proof that titles die before people do. Rusk Calder does not wait long. He has workers. Tools. A reputation for violence. He also has a wounded pride. Zero humiliated him in the chat. So Rusk comes to apartment 723 with 5 men and a steel pry bar. He shouts through the door. He says Zero has been acting arrogant. He says the building needs unity. He says if Zero opens willingly, nobody gets hurt. Inside, Zero checks the camera feed. Rusk is thin from hunger but still dangerous. His men are worse. Desperate men who think violence will solve an empty stomach. Zero opens the speaker. Go home, Rusk laughs. The first pry bar strikes the door. It makes a dull metallic thud. No crack, no bend, just sound. They strike again. 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 One man curses because his hands hurt. Another says the door must be metal inside. Rusk orders them to keep going. Zero lets them tire themselves out. Then he activates the door's warning plate. A sharp flash jumps through the pry bar. The man holding it drops backward with a scream. The others scatter. Rusk stares at the door like it personally betrayed him. Zero speaks through the intercom. You have learned one thing. Learn the second before you die. Rusk asks what the second is. Zero opens the small service slit near the floor, just wide enough to pass packages. A blast of icy water hits the hallway floor. The starving men slip, scramble, and retreat as the water freezes around their boots. It is not a killing blow. It is a message. In this weather, even water is a weapon. Rusk crawls away, swearing revenge. The building chat receives a new rumor within minutes. Apartment 723 is not an apartment. It is a fortress. Ligma reads the rumor in her freezing room. For the first time, she is not thinking about how to manipulate Zero. She is thinking about how to survive him. Ligma waits until Rusk's failure becomes common knowledge. Then she tries softness again. She calls Zero with tears in her eyes. She says she was wrong before. She says the world is different now. She says people should not cling to old grudges. Zero asks if she is hungry. The question lands like a hook. Ligma's mask almost cracks. She says yes. Zero asks where Celia is. Ligma says she is asleep. Celia is not asleep. She is listening beside the phone, shaking from cold and anger. Zero sets the phone on the table and lets the camera show a bowl of steaming noodles. Ligma stares at it like a worshipper. She asks if he can spare anything. He says food has value now. She says she has nothing to trade. He says she used to have him. That silences her. She reaches for one last lie. She says she always cared. Zero ends the call. The next day, Ligma changes strategy. She finds a man named Paxton, one of her old admirers from another floor. Paxton still believes love can be earned by suffering. Ligma tells him Zero has food, medicine, and warmth. She says Zero tried to force her into debt. She says if Paxton is really a man, he will help her take back what Zero owes. Paxton gathers 3 people. They bring knives. They bring umbrellas because they heard about the water trick. They come at night and pretend to ask for medicine. Zero watches from the cameras. He knows all their names. He knows their positions. He waits until the lockpicker kneels in front of the door. Then he activates the defensive plate again. The first man drops. The others panic. Zero uses the service slit to disable their tools and drive them back. He does not open the door. That is the rule. The strongest fortress is not the one with the most weapons. It is the one that never gives desperate people a doorway. Paxton survives long enough to realize Ligma used him. Ligma survives long enough to realize Zero will not be softened. And everyone in Tower C learns the same thing. Rusk learned. The door is not the weakness. The door is bait. After the failed lock attempt, the residents stop thinking like neighbors. They think like a siege crowd. If the door cannot open, try the wall. If the wall cannot break, try the balcony. If the balcony cannot break, wait until Zero leaves. Rusk uses Ligma's leaked pictures of Zero's food to gather people. He tells them apartment 703 has enough for everyone. He tells them Zero is the reason their children are starving. He does not mention that he has been raiding apartments himself. Hungry people do not question the man pointing at food. They march to the 17th floor with tools, poles, knives, hammers, and broken furniture. Zero is eating pasta when the camera feed fills with faces. He could scare them away. He could bargain. Instead, he lets them show him their ideas. First, they attack the door. Nothing. Then the wall beside the door. The plaster cracks. Behind it, metal plating rings under every strike. The crowd goes quiet. Someone whispers that he reinforced the walls. They try the floor above. They find metal there too. They try the ceiling below. Again, reinforcement. Zero's voice comes through the intercom. You keep looking for the weak point because you think I prepared like a normal person. Someone shouts that the balcony is glass. The crowd brightens. They break into the empty apartment next door and build a bridge from furniture planks. A few crawl across, shaking from cold and fear. Zero lets them reach his balcony. They hammer the glass. The glass does not break. They scream at him through it. He places a hot plate of dumplings on a table directly in front of them. The smell drives them mad. One man starts crying. Another begs. A third curses Zero for being cruel. Zero only watches. In his first life, these same people ate from his stolen shelves while he froze. Now they know what glass feels like from the other side. He makes one announcement in the building chat. A week of food to whoever removes Rusk Calder from power. The crowd turns. Rusk hears his own name ripple through the hallway. For the first time since the snow began, the predator realizes he can become prey. Then, the system gives Zero the part he cares about. Shelter defense event cleared. Hostile breach attempts defeated. Door, wall, ceiling, balcony. Primary safe zone integrity, 100%. Dimensional storage EXP threshold reached. Level increased, level 3 Misher, level 4. New rank, Combat Vault. New ability unlocked. Combat Quick Draw. Stored weapons and tools may now be assigned to instant retrieval slots. Zero looks at the shaking crowd outside the glass. They think the fortress is strong because of metal. They are only half right. The real fortress is the system behind it. Good. Pasic. Among the survivors of Ashford Heights is Dr. Yuki Solon. In the old world, she ran a private clinic. In the frozen world, that makes her more valuable than gold. Medicine has become currency. So has knowledge. Yuki is careful. She does not join Rusk. She does not trust Nora. She helps when she can, but each day her supplies shrink. In Zero's first life, Yuki died because she gave away her last medicine and food to people who still demanded more. Zero remembers that. He does not mistake kindness for stupidity. When Yuki messages him, she does not beg. She asks to negotiate. Zero respects that. He offers food, heat, and medical supplies in exchange for information. Yuki becomes his eyes in the building, not a servant. Not a hostage, a contractor. Her job is simple. Tell him who is organizing. Who is armed? Who is sick? Who is lying? Who is still worth saving? Yuki hesitates before agreeing. She knows helping Zero means choosing a side. But the alternative is starving under people like Rusk. Her first report arrives within hours. Rusk's men have taken over multiple floors. Paxton's group is wounded and blaming Ligma. Nora is losing influence. A retired veteran named Ryu Hale is quietly organizing decent people but lacks food and weapons. And the neighboring towers are becoming worse. Some have floor bosses. Some have trade markets. Some have already collapsed into violence. Zero reads the report and understands the next phase. His apartment can survive a mob. But it cannot survive the entire complex uniting. He needs a buffer. A controlled outer ring. A building that fears him enough to obey, but trusts him enough not to revolt immediately. Rusk gives him the opportunity. Rusk captures Yuki after discovering she contacted Zero. He forces her to treat his men. He keeps her under watch. He plans another assault on apartment 73. Yuki sends one hidden message from a bathroom. They are coming tonight, many. Rusk has joined with Ligma's group. Zero replies with 2 words. Stay low. Then he prepares the fortress to teach the building a final lesson. Yuki Solon does not trust Zero because he offers food. She distrusts him because he offers it too calmly. Desperate people overpromise. Cruel people enjoy watching others beg. Zero does neither. He prices survival like a doctor prices treatment. Cold, exact, unemotional. That makes him more frightening. When she agrees to send him information, she tells herself it is temporary. A few reports. A few meals. Enough medicine to stay useful. Then she will find a way to stand apart, but there is no apart anymore. Rusk's men come for her because every gang needs a doctor. They do not ask. They escort. They put her in a room with injured men and tell her to work. Rusk sits nearby, eating from Nora's stolen supplies. He speaks as if he is reasonable. He says the building needs strong leadership. He says Zero could have avoided all this by sharing. He says doctors have a duty. Yuki asks if leaders usually steal from feverish children. Rusk smiles and says, leaders do what followers are too soft to do. That is the moment Yuki chooses. Not Zero as a man. Zero as the lesser disaster. She treats wounds while listening. Rusk plans another assault. Ligma's people will lure Zero's attention from one side. Paxton's wounded group will pressure the door. Rusk's strongest men will attack the wall from the adjacent apartment. Someone claims they found a vent access. Yuki sends fragments of this plan whenever she can. She hides the phone under a loose tile. Each message is shorter than the last. Battery dying. Watcher close. Wall plan. Vent plan. Tonight. When Zero replies, stay low, she understands the words are not comfort. They are coordinates. Something is coming. And for once, Yuki is relieved. The most dangerous person in the building is not on Rusk's side. Orc. At 2030 in the morning, the stairwell fills with people. Rusk brings his men. Ligma brings the desperate. Paxton brings guilt. Nora brings the last scraps of fake authority. The crowd tells itself, this is justice. They are not robbing Zero. They are reclaiming food for everyone. That story makes it easier to hold a weapon. They reach the 17th floor. Zero has music playing inside. Loud. Energetic. Absurdly cheerful. The attackers hear it through the door and become furious. They hammer. They ram. They scream. Zero lets them spend their strength. Then he activates the first defense layer. The hallway lights die. Emergency lamps switch on behind them, not in front. Their own shadows stretch across the door. Then the speaker crackles. You came for food, so here is the price. Rusk shouts that nobody is afraid of him. Zero opens every camera feed to the building chat. Every resident can now watch Rusk leading an armed mob. Then Zero posts the recordings of Rusk raiding apartments, the recordings of Nora's collection scam, the recordings of Ligma sending Paxton to his door. The mob loses its moral story in one stroke. They are no longer starving neighbors. They are exposed thieves. And exposed thieves panic. Zero uses the confusion to trigger the second defense layer. The floor plates flash. Tools drop. People stumble. The attackers at the front retreat into the attackers at the back. Rusk screams for order. There is none. Yuki, still trapped below, uses the chaos to drug Rusk's inner circle with a sedative she had hidden for emergencies. Not enough to kill. Enough to drop them. Rusk falls. His lieutenants fall. Yuki gets the weapon away from him and sends Zero a single message. Done. Zero steps into the hallway for the first time since the freeze. Thermal suit. Mask. Rifle slung low. Everyone who sees him goes silent. He does not look like a starving neighbor. He looks like the man the apocalypse chose. He walks past the mob and goes to where Rusk lies. He broadcasts one sentence to the whole tower. From tonight on, Tower C has rules. Work earns food. Betrayal earns exile. Attack my door again, and the tower loses protection. Nobody cheers. Nobody argues. They are too hungry for pride. By dawn, Ryu Hale organizes patrol teams. Yuki moves into the Heatbox clinic room as Zero's medical officer. Tower C stops being a residential building. It becomes an outer fortress. And Zero becomes the man everyone hates, fears, and needs. When Yuki finally steps inside the Heatbox, she stops at the threshold. Not because Zero orders her to. Because her body forgets how to process warmth. For days, she has lived in stairwell cold, clinic cold, hallway cold, the kind of cold that settles into bones and turns thought slow. The Heatbox air touches her face like summer. Her eyes water before she can stop them. Zero notices, but says nothing. He leads her past the entry chamber, where a camera scans her coat and pockets. A mechanical lock seals behind them. The inner door opens. Yuki sees the impossible. Clean floor. Soft light. Water jars stacked by size. Medical crates organized by label. A growing shelf of herbs under lamps. A stove with soup warming. A bed with actual blankets. No frost. No smell of panic. No crowd. For one dangerous second, she understands why people outside would kill to enter. Zero gives her a private room, no bigger than a storage closet, but warmer than anything outside. He sets down a bowl of soup, a bottle of water, clean clothes, and a medical inventory sheet. Yuki asks if this is where she thanks him. Zero says thanks are cheap. Read the inventory. Tell him what's missing. She almost smiles. This is better than gratitude. It is work. Work means she is not a rescued object. She is a function of the fortress. As she eats, Zero explains the rules. No opening outer doors without authorization. No revealing Heatbox layout. No treating attackers with fortress medicine unless approved. No private deals with tower residents. Yuki says those rules make him sound like a tyrant. Zero says tyrants demand love. He only demands compliance. She says compliance without trust breaks eventually. He says trust broke first. For a moment, the only sound is the soup spoon touching the bowl. Yuki realizes then that Zero's cruelty is not wild. It is built around an injury. That does not excuse it, but it tells her where the fracture is. And doctors, even underground doctors in frozen cities, are trained to notice fractures. Zero's rule is simple: no free meals. Not because he lacks food, because free food creates entitlement faster than hunger creates gratitude. Tower C has 47 usable survivors after the first purges and raids. Zero divides them into 6 teams. Patrol, repair, scouting, sanitation, medical support, snow tunnel watch. Ryu, the retired veteran, trains the patrols. Yuki manages injuries and sickness. Zero controls food distribution from behind the Heatbox door. He gives enough to keep people alive. Never enough to make them comfortable. Comfort belongs inside the fortress. Survival belongs outside it. This is cruel. It is also effective. People who were waiting to be saved begin moving. They clear stairwells. They map connected tunnels. They guard the lower floors. They reinforce broken doors. They begin reporting suspicious movement from other towers. Zero rewards results publicly. Patrol that drives off intruders receives hot soup. A repair team that seals a stairwell receives rice. A scout who lies loses ration priority. A man who hides during a fight receives only 1 candy. Humiliation is cheaper than punishment and spreads faster. Ligma crawls into a food line days later, thinner, dirty, and furious. She calls Zero by his old nickname. He does not answer. She asks why he hates her. He says he does not hate yesterday's weather either. It is simply gone. She reaches for his sleeve. Ryu steps between them. Yuki points to the projected ration board beside the stairwell. Tower, C survival ledger, worker meals, priority 1. Security meals, priority 2. Medical cases and children, priority 3. Non-contributors, ration only. Ligma's name flashes. Applicant, Ligma Vale. Contribution, 0. Threat history, food leak, hostile association, manipulation attempt. Ration class, last priority. The line goes quiet. A few people recognize her from the old days. The pretty girl with expensive coats. The girl Zero used to follow. Now the system has reduced her to a ledger entry. Ligma realizes Zero no longer has to reject her personally. His rules can do it in public. That hurts more. Shock payoff registered. Social beauty no longer equals survival value. From outside Tower C, rumors spread. Building 26 wants his snow vehicle. Building 21 wants his food. A woman named Vela Chen has taken over Tower 9 with negotiation and blackmail. A man named Sora Vero holds Tower 18 together through fairness and ration sharing. Zero studies both names carefully. Vela is dangerous because she wants power. Sora is dangerous because people might choose him willingly. Zero has food. Sora has trust. In a long apocalypse, both can build kingdoms. And Zero does not like kingdoms he does not control. The morning after Zero announces work contracts, the hallway outside apartment 73 fills before sunrise. People arrive wrapped in blankets, curtains, trash bags, and whatever else can hold body heat. Some come ashamed. Some come angry. Some come ready to beg. A few come ready to lie. Zero does not open the door. He speaks through the intercom and displays a simple form on the hallway screen. Name, room number, skill, tools owned, dependence, what you can do today, what you need today. The crowd complains immediately. A man says his child needs food, not paperwork. Zero says paperwork is how he knows who is useful enough to feed tomorrow. A woman says this is heartless. Zero asks if she has a better system. She says sharing. Zero asks what she brought to share. She goes quiet. That exchange becomes the rule of the hall. People stop speaking in emotions and start speaking in offerings. One man can repair wiring. One woman knows basic nursing. Two teenagers can move through snow tunnels because they are small. A retired teacher can watch children so adults can work. A delivery rider remembers service entrances in the mall. An old maintenance worker knows which basement rooms connect between towers. Zero records everything. Then he chooses 5 people for the first work shift. The rest receive nothing. The rejected crowd erupts. Zero waits until they finish. Then he sends 1 bowl of porridge through the service drawer to the first selected worker. The smell alone silences everyone. The man eats with shaking hands. Every person in the hall watches the spoon travel from bowl to mouth. Zero has created the first public ritual of the new building. Work first. Food second. Complaints last. By afternoon, half the hallway hates him. By evening, the other half is trying to become useful enough to be hated less. That is the beginning of Tower C's labor economy. Not heroic. Not fair. But stable. And in an apocalypse, stable becomes beautiful faster than anyone expects. After Rusk falls, Tower C does not become peaceful. It becomes organized. There is a difference. Peace requires trust. Organization only requires incentives. Zero builds incentives like walls. Every adult gets logged. Name, age, skills, injuries, dependence, criminal behavior witnessed, potential usefulness, potential risk. People hate being categorized. They hate it less when the form ends with hot porridge. Ryu sets patrol watches in 4-hour shifts. Nobody likes night watch because the stairwells are cold and every sound below might be raiders. Zero adds hazard pay. A night watch earns extra soup. A completed repair earns tea. A verified warning earns protein. A false report loses ration priority. Soon, people who never work together begin competing to be useful. A retired electrician fixes a junction box with shaking hands. A delivery driver maps snow tunnels between towers. A schoolteacher organizes children in one warm communal room during daylight. A former accountant tracks ration logs so nobody can claim Zero cheated them. This is where Zero proves smarter than the original gangs. Rusk ruled by fear and theft. That made everyone under him weaker. Zero rules by fear and reward. That makes everyone under him more functional. Yuki notices the distinction and hates that it works. Ryu notices and respects it. Sora, watching from Tower 18, understands it immediately. Zero is not trying to be loved. He is trying to make his building too useful to collapse. One night, a child asks why Mr. Zero never eats with everyone else. The room goes quiet. Ryu says leaders eat last. Yuki almost laughs. Zero eats first, best, and alone. But the child believes Ryu, and sometimes belief is more useful than truth. Shh. The outer teams need supplies. Zero needs weapons. More importantly, he needs the city to see something. He needs them to understand that he can leave and return. In this snow, mobility is power, so he waits until the 4th floor windows are level with the snowpack. Then he climbs out wearing a thermal suit and summons a storage snowcrawler from the dimensional storage system. A small vehicle appears on the white surface like a magic trick. Someone in another tower sees it. That is fine. Let them see. Zero drives through a dead city. Streetlights are buried. Cars are only lumps under snow. The mall roof is reachable because the lower floors are gone beneath ice. First, he visits the police station. The officers inside never survived the first night. Zero covers them before taking what he came for: weapons, protective gear, ammunition, radios. Then he goes to the mall. Most fresh food is ruined. Frozen fruit, cracked jars, broken shelves. But for the starving outside, even damaged food has value. He fills sacks with whatever can be eaten after thawing. When he returns to Tower C, the residents cheer. They think he risked his life to feed them. Zero lets them believe it. He gives a speech with a rifle in hand and food behind him. I went outside. I found food. I can do it again. But anyone who eats from this pile obeys Tower rules. Nobody asks about the food inside his apartment. Nobody asks why he looks less tired than a man who crossed a frozen city should. They only see the sacks. They only smell calories. Building 26 sends raiders that same evening. They expect weak, starving residents. Instead, Tower C's patrols attack like people who have been promised 5 days of food. That is the first time Zero proves food is better than speeches. The raiders flee. Tower C celebrates. Zero watches from above with Yuki beside him. She asks if he planned it. He says he planned the hunger. The rest was human nature. Yuki looks at the people below, cheering because they survived by hurting other starving people. Then she looks at the warm light behind Zero's door. For the first time, she wonders if joining him saved her life or sold part of her soul. Namasik. The first time Zero drives above the buried city, he feels like he is crossing a graveyard roof. The snowcrawler hums under him. The engine sound seems obscene in a world where most people cannot charge a phone. Tower windows follow him as he passes. Faces appear behind frost. Some wave. Some curse. Some simply stare, calculating. Zero drives past a bus frozen into an intersection, past a police barricade half swallowed by snow. Past a supermarket sign sticking out of a drift like a tombstone. The city has become layers. Surface snow. Buried streets. Submerged shops. Tunnels made by desperate hands. Secret passages through second-floor windows. It is no longer Ravenfall City. It is a vertical maze. At the police station, Zero moves quickly. He takes weapons, yes, but also radios, body armor, winter masks, flares, restraints, and old paper maps. Maps matter now. GPS is unreliable. Street signs are buried. The person who knows the old city underneath the new snow can move while others wander. At the mall, he digs through a roof entrance. The inside is silent. Frozen mannequins stand like pale witnesses. A fountain has become a column of ice. Escalators vanish into darkness below. Zero marks the roof entry with a symbol only Ryu knows. He collects damaged food for public distribution and stores valuable tools privately. That distinction matters. Public food buys loyalty. Private tools build the next advantage. On the return trip, he sees movement near a buried pharmacy. 3 people watching him from a hole in the snow. He does not stop. Stopping teaches strangers they can interrupt him. Instead, he turns the crawler slightly, lets them see the weapon mounted beside him, and keeps driving. By the time he returns, the story has already outrun him. Zero crossed the dead city. Zero found food. Zero drove past raiders. Zero came back without frostbite. The details become larger with each retelling. That is fine. A leader's legend is a shelter too. They're all. After the raid, Zero organizes Tower C like a small army. Ryu runs patrol rotations. Yuki treats only approved patients. Unless Zero grants exceptions, food is measured. Information is rewarded. Cowardice is punished with hunger, not speeches. The tower starts working because the rules are clear. That clarity attracts enemies. Neighboring towers send messages. Some beg. Some threaten. Some offer alliance. Vila Chen from Tower 9 proposes cooperation. She wants Zero's snowcrawler. She offers 76 workers who can search the city for him. Zero says she wants him to feed them first, lend the vehicle, and trust strangers not to steal it. Vela answers that soon every tower will unite against him if he refuses. A threat wrapped as strategy. Sora from Tower 18 sends a different message. He says his people are sharing everything equally. He does not ask for the vehicle. He asks for a small trade of food in exchange for labor or protection. Zero dislikes him more. A selfish leader can be bought. A fair leader can become a symbol. Zero calls a meeting with the strongest tower leaders. Not because he wants peace, because he wants them in one room. He feeds Tower C well before the meeting. Hot soup. Meat. Tea. Enough to make them brave. Then he sends Ryu and the patrols to attend visibly while he hides in a nearby unit with a rifle and cameras. The leaders arrive with too many people, not negotiators. A small army. Zero calls Ryu. Step back. Ryu does. A warning shot destroys the snow between the delegations. The leaders freeze. Zero speaks through a phone on speaker. You brought a crowd to a negotiation. I brought math. If you fight, many die. If you work, some eat. Choose. They choose work. Zero offers 10 meals per tower per day. Not enough for everyone, just enough to make leaders fight over distribution. In exchange, every tower must dig through the snow to reach ground level and attempt winter farming under plastic covers. The leaders laugh at planting in ice. Then Zero places seeds on the table. Food runs out. Soil waits. The smokers among the leaders accept when he adds cigarettes as a bonus. The hungry leaders accept because the alternative is war. Sora accepts last, not because he trusts Zero, because refusing would get his people killed sooner. Zero returns home satisfied. Yuki asks if he really wants them to farm. Zero says yes. Not because it will work quickly, because labor burns calories. And hungry people fighting over 10 meals will weaken themselves faster than any bullet. The tower leaders do not all hate Zero the same way. That makes them useful. Vela hates being unable to control him. A smoker named Garen hates that Zero has cigarettes. A former businessman named Weil hates that Zero ignores money. A quiet woman from Tower 12 hates that he has security while her people sleep in shifts. Sora does not hate him. Sora watches him like a dangerous weather system. When they finally sit in one room, Zero lets them speak first. This is deliberate. People reveal their priorities by what they demand when they think they have leverage. Vela demands shared use of the snowcrawler. Garen demands cigarettes. Weil demands a formal council. The Tower 12 woman demands medicine. Sora asks how many people Zero can actually feed. That is the only real question. Zero answers honestly enough to be useful. Not all of them. Not forever. Not for free. The room erupts. Zero waits. Then he places seeds on the table. Old world people see seeds and think gardening. Apocalypse people should see time. Planting is not a meal. It is a promise that the future might have meals. Most of the leaders are too hungry to think past tomorrow. Sora understands immediately. The Tower 12 woman does too. Garen only understands cigarettes. Zero uses that. He gives Garen one pack and watches the entire room shift. Suddenly, they all believe he has more. Cigarettes are not food. They are proof of surplus. Proof of surplus is power. By the end, Zero has turned a hostile coalition into a labor force. Not loyal. Not safe, but pointed in a direction. That is enough for now. The digging begins. Hundreds of residents from surrounding towers claw through meters of snow, trying to reach buried earth. Zero passes through like a commander, thermal suit clean, weapon visible. People curse him under their breath. They also keep digging. The first day, the towers receive their meals. The leaders distribute them badly. Some keep food for fighters. Some trade it for loyalty. Some give cigarettes to their inner circle and scraps to workers. By the second day, arguments begin. By the third, people are being thrown out to reduce mouths. Zero watches from camera feeds and reports. Yuki calls it engineered collapse. Zero calls it predictable. Then there is Tower 18. Sora Vero tells every resident the terms of Zero's deal. He divides the 10 meals into tiny portions. Everyone gets something. Nobody gets enough. But nobody is lied to. Tower 18 stays alive. Hungry. Miserable. But together, Zero visits Sora in person. Ryu warns him not to. Zero goes anyway. Sora meets him in a half-frozen lobby with no weapon raised. Zero asks how he kept order. Sora says he told the truth. Zero asks if truth fills stomachs. Sora says lies empty them faster. For a moment, neither man speaks. Zero suggests. Sora choose only the strongest and let the rest go. Sora refuses. Zero calls him naive. Sora calls Zero afraid. That almost makes Zero smile. Sora is right, but not in the way he thinks. Zero is afraid of returning to the old timeline, afraid of opening the door, afraid of needing people and watching them become Ligma. So he builds systems where trust is unnecessary. Work, ration, fear, transaction. Sora builds the opposite, shared hunger, shared risk, shared truth. Zero leaves annoyed. Later, he orders Yuki to mark Tower 18 as non-hostile. She asks why. Zero says, honest people die early, but useful honest people should die last. It is the closest thing to mercy he has shown since the snow began. Yuki notices. So does Ryu. Zero pretends not to. Sora Vero's tower smells like boiled grain and wet wool. That alone tells Zero more than the guards at the entrance. No rich food. No hidden feast. No leader eating separately while followers starve. Everyone is hungry here. Equally hungry. Zero dislikes it immediately. Equal suffering can build loyalty faster than unequal comfort. Sora meets him in the old lobby, where the floor is cracked from frost, and people have hung blankets across doorways to trap heat. He is thinner than Zero expected, not weak. Spent. A man burning himself to keep others warm. Zero asks to see their food stores. Sora shows him. Small piles, labeled. Counted. Public. Zero asks why he does not hide some for fighters. Sora says fighters with full stomachs guarding starving families become warlords. Zero says starving fighters lose. Sora says maybe. But if they win by becoming the thing they fought, what exactly survived? Zero hates questions like that. They sound noble until someone freezes. He asks how long Sora's system lasts. Sora says not long. Zero asks what happens then. Sora says they decide together. Zero steps closer. Together is a word people use before blaming someone else. Sora smiles slightly. And control is a word people use before calling fear loyalty. Ryu, standing behind Zero, shifts like he expects violence. Zero does not move. He studies Sora and sees the problem clearly. This man is not a threat because he is strong. He is a threat because he makes weakness look dignified. People will follow that. Some will die for it. Zero turns to leave. Sora asks if he plans to let Tower 118 starve. Zero says everyone is starving. Sora says Zero is not. For a moment, the lobby air tightens. Sora has said the quiet part aloud. Zero looks back. Then be useful enough that I prefer you alive. Sora nods. That is almost mercy. Zero says mercy is what people call strategy when it benefits them. But as he leaves, he gives Ryu a private order. If Tower 18 is attacked by outside raiders, warn him before intervening. Ryu asks if they are protecting Sora now. Zero says no. They are protecting an experiment. Ryu says experiments do not usually have names. Zero does not answer. The tower leaders eventually do what Zero expects. They unite behind his back. Not all of them, just enough. Vela helps organize it. 2 corrupt leaders agree. A few fighters from other towers hide near the pickup point. They think Zero is growing arrogant. They think the man with food has forgotten that bullets still kill. They choose the day Zero brings extra meals. The day he appears generous. The day everyone gathers close. Ryu senses something wrong. He steps nearer to Zero. Yuki, watching from the Heatbox camera grid, messages one word: ambush. The attackers move. Weapons rise. Ryu shoves Zero aside and takes the first hit. For 1 second, Zero is truly surprised. Not because of the attack, because Ryu chose to protect him. Then the surprise freezes into something colder. Zero opens dimensional storage system and pulls out weapons the attackers did not know he had. The battle is short, brutal. Not because Zero enjoys it, because he has learned not to let enemies retreat with hope. Vela begs, insisting she was not part of the first strike. Maybe she is telling the truth. Zero cannot risk maybe. When it ends, the snowfield belongs to him. Ryu is still alive, barely. Yuki operates inside the Heatbox with equipment, Zero stored before the freeze. Zero brings out a hospital stretcher from dimensional storage system in front of Ryu's companion, Leah, who gasps because she finally sees proof that Zero's power is more than storage. Ryu should die. He does not. By morning, his wounds begin closing at impossible speed. Yuki's hands shake as she checks him. Zero understands before she says it. The freeze did something to people, not everyone. Maybe only those who come close to death. Maybe only those with the right body. Maybe only those the world still needs. Zero has dimensional storage system. Ryu has regeneration and strength. There will be others. That changes everything. Food is still power. But soon, food will feed powers, and anyone with enough calories will be able to use abilities longer than starving enemies. Zero looks at the endless meals in his hand. For the first time, unlimited food is not only survival. It is fuel for war. Ryu wakes to the sound of machines. At first, he thinks he is back in a military field hospital. Then he smells hot broth and antiseptic and remembers the snow. Yuki stands over him with dark circles under her eyes. Zero is in the corner, arms crossed, looking more annoyed than relieved. That is how Ryu knows he survived. If Zero looked gentle, he would assume he was hallucinating. Yuki tells him not to move. Ryu moves anyway. The bed frame groans under his hand. A metal side rail bends. Everyone goes still. Ryu stares at his own fingers. Zero steps closer. Do that again, slowly. Ryu presses 2 fingers into the rail. The metal dents like thick clay. Yuki whispers that this is impossible. Zero says impossible is becoming crowded. They test carefully. Grip strength, healing. Pulse, temperature. Food consumption. Ryu is starving within minutes. Zero gives him broth, then rice, then meat. Ryu eats like his body has become a furnace. The more he eats, the steadier his hands become. Yuki sees the pattern and writes it down. Awakened ability, triggered by near-death trauma. Rapid tissue repair, enhanced muscle output. Extreme caloric demand. Zero reads the notes and feels the future widen. There will be awakened people all over the city. Some will be like Ryu. Some like Nico. Some worse. Most will be hungry, and hunger will decide whether their powers make them protectors, raiders, or monsters. Ryu asks what happens now. Zero says he becomes the wall between Tower C and anything that wants in. Ryu asks if that is an order. Zero says it is an offer with food attached. Ryu laughs once, then winces. You really don't know how to ask normally, do you? Zero says normal died outside. Ryu says no. Normal is what people rebuild when they stop running. Zero leaves before the conversation can become annoying. But later, when he reviews the medical footage, he watches Ryu bend the rail again. Not because of the strength. Because Ryu smiled afterward. The old man nearly died and woke up in a nightmare with impossible power. And somehow, he smiled. Zero does not understand that kind of resilience. Not yet. After the ambush, Zero decides the surrounding towers cannot remain half hostile. Half hostile means waiting for a better chance. And he does not give second chances to people who already tried to kill him. He leads Tower C patrols into the worst towers. Not as a rescue force, as a storm. The fights are chaotic, stairwells, frozen lobbies, barricaded halls. People who thought Zero's strength came only from food discover he has weapons, armor, cameras, scouts, and a regenerating veteran on his side. The worst gangs fall. Some residents surrender, some flee into the snow. Some hide until hunger brings them out. Zero does not burn every building like in the old brutal rumors people later spread. He does something more useful. He breaks leadership. He destroys stockpiles belonging to hostile groups. He marks dangerous floors. He relocates useful survivors to controlled zones. He leaves Sora's Tower, 18, untouched. That decision becomes legend. Some say Sora made a secret deal. Some say Zero fears him. Some say Zero spared him because Sora's people never attacked. The truth is less noble. Zero wants one honest comparison left alive. A control sample. A place where people are still choosing order without fear of him. If Sora fails, Zero proves himself right. If Sora succeeds, Zero learns from him. When the last hostile tower stops resisting, Zero returns to the Heatbox exhausted. Yuki asks if the neighborhood is safe now. Zero says safe is temporary, controlled is better. Then he checks Ryu. The old soldier is awake, stronger than before, and deeply ashamed that others died while saving him. Zero tells him shame is useless unless it changes behavior. Ryu asks what he should do. Zero says, get stronger. Outside, survivors whisper that Zero is a monster. Inside Tower C, those same survivors line up for food. That is the shape of his kingdom. Not love, not loyalty. Need. A beaten scavenger named Silas comes to Zero with information. He knows about a private bunker in the wealthy Ridge district. A mansion called the Glass House, built by Noku Ren, heir to a tech fortune. Underground levels. Independent power. Hydroponics. Security gas. Automated doors. Entertainment rooms. Satellite internet. Enough luxury to pretend the apocalypse is happening to other people. Zero nearly dismisses it. His Heatbox is safe. Tower C is controlled. Why risk attacking a fortress? Then Silas reveals the important part. Noku already knows about Zero. He wants the snow crawler. He wants the food source. He has contacted other groups. Zero's expression changes. A fortress that ignores another fortress becomes a target. Silas wants in. He claims he can get Noku to open the door. Zero does not trust him. So he lies. He injects Silas with a harmless saline shot and tells him it is delayed poison. Silas has 7 days to remain useful. Fear does the rest. Before going to the glass house, Zero tests Dimensional Storage System's second layer. If it can reproduce food, store tools, preserve fuel, and suspend time, what else can it do? He starts with flame. A candle enters the black space. Not the candle. The flame itself. For a second, Zero feels heat vanish from the room. Then he releases it. A burst of fire erupts from his palm and dies against the reinforced wall. He does not smile. He thinks, energy can be stored. The black window reacts. Non-solid storage exploit detected. Environmental matter can be stored under level 4 restrictions. Dimensional storage EXP threshold reached. Level increased, level 4 minus, level 5. New rank, dimensional discharge. New ability unlocked, absorb release. Eligible targets, flame, smoke, gas, loose snow, liquid, dust, small debris. Warning, living targets resist storage. Forced contact may cause backlash. Then smoke. Then gas. Then moving objects. The power is not a kitchen trick. That is only the first name the system gave him because he was starving when he awakened it. It is a dimensional vault, a place where time pauses and matter obeys the rules of storage. Food made him untouchable at home. This discovery might make him dangerous anywhere. Yuki warns him that testing powers on people is a line. Zero says lines disappeared with the roads. Yuki says no, the roads disappeared. Lines are what people choose when nobody can force them. Zero says nothing. But he does not forget it. Silas enters the Ridge District, tied and shivering. Zero follows in a white thermal suit, gas mask hidden under his collar, dimensional vault open inside his mind. The glass house rises from the snow like a black diamond. Most of the wealthy district is buried. This mansion is not. Heated glass. Angled roofs. Security lights. A private world pretending the old one still exists. Silas calls Noku through the gate camera. He says he captured Zero. He says the snowcrawler is hidden nearby. He says this is Noku's chance. Noku is greedy enough to believe what flatters him. The outer gate opens. Inside the security corridor, hidden vents release knockout gas. Zero absorbs it into dimensional vault before it reaches his lungs. He screams anyway. Silas screams because he is told to. The cameras show both men collapsing. Noku sends a guard to drag them inside. That is the mistake. Once the inner door opens, Zero releases the stored gas behind the guard team. They drop. He takes their weapons. He secures the control room. He learns the mansion's systems room by room. Noku tries to bargain. He offers partnership. He offers luxury. He offers women, power, reputation after the freeze ends. Zero lets him talk until he reveals every password. Every fail-safe. Every hidden stockroom. Every generator line. Then Noku asks if they are friends now. Zero looks at the surveillance screens. He has seen the rooms Noku kept locked. The people trapped there. The way the rich boy treated the apocalypse like a private amusement park. Zero's face goes cold. No. Noku never gets the mansion back. Silas receives a backpack of food and thinks he has won. Then he demands more. He threatens to reveal Zero's secret if he is not treated as a partner. Zero gives him one chance to leave. Silas mistakes mercy for weakness. He does not leave. By dawn, the glass house belongs to Zero. It has satellite internet, a hydroponic room, a larger power system, a better medical bay, a deep bunker level, and cameras connected to parts of the city. Zero never could see from Tower C. For the first time since the freeze, Zero stands somewhere better than the Heatbox. He should feel satisfied. Instead, he realizes something worse. If Noku built this, others did too. Ravenfall has more hidden shelters, more power users, more people who prepared. Zero is not the only one ahead of the apocalypse. He is only the one with the most food. The glass house feels wrong because it is beautiful. In Tower C, survival looks like patched coats, battery lamps, ration bowls, and taped windows. In the glass house, the air smells faintly of cedar. The floors are warm. The lights dim automatically. Plants grow under purple lamps. A grand piano sits in a room nobody plays. There is a wine cellar. There is an indoor pool sealed under a thermal cover. There are art pieces on walls while people 3 streets away boil shoe leather. Zero hates it immediately. Then he decides to keep it. A fortress does not need to be ugly to be useful. The control room is the real treasure. Screens show exterior cameras, snow depth sensors, power levels, air quality, water purification, greenhouse humidity, door logs, generator reserves, and encrypted communication channels. Noku built a palace. He accidentally built a command center. Zero spends the first night learning every system instead of sleeping. Yuki would have called that obsessive. Yuki is not there yet. So Zero says it to himself. Obsessive people survive what relaxed people call bad luck. At dawn, he opens the vault. Noku's food supply is large but finite. Expensive cans, imported grain, protein bars, preserved meat, luxury snacks, enough for a few dozen people for months. Not unlimited. Zero touches each item, storing templates when possible. The glass house thinks it is feeding him. In reality, it is teaching. Dimensional storage system, new flavors. That becomes the theme of Zero's life. Every enemy fortress becomes an ingredient. Every captured supply becomes a template. Every threat becomes another layer added to his own safety. Zero moves carefully. He does not abandon Tower C. He leaves Ryu in charge of the Heatbox outpost. The old soldier can defend it better now. Yuki transfers key medical equipment to the glass house. A celebrity survivor named Zumi Win is found hiding in a nearby villa. In the old world, every billboard knew her face. In the new world, fame cannot warm a room. Zumi offers influence, knowledge of the wealthy district, and media instincts in exchange for shelter. Zero accepts her as a morale and communications asset. Not a prize, a role. Yuki does not like her at first. Zumi does not like Yuki either. They are cousins, which makes the tension worse. Yuki grew up respected in medical circles. Zumi became famous through entertainment and charm. Old family grudges arrive in the bunker before either woman can stop them. Zero shuts it down. Old status is dead. The glass house has jobs. Yuki runs medicine. Zumi manages morale, cooking rotations, public messaging, and social reading. Ryu holds Tower C. Zero controls food, security, and outside strategy. The bunker begins functioning. Hydroponic greens grow under lamps. Stored meals fill the table. Hot showers return. Clean clothes return. The difference between inside and outside becomes obscene. That is the comfort fantasy. That is also the danger. People outside will kill for a warm corner. People inside may forget what cold does. Zero does not allow forgetting. Every morning, he makes each resident review camera feeds from the city. Frozen streets. Raider tunnels. Smoke from failed shelters. Bodies under snow, shown only from distance. Not to be cruel. To keep luxury from becoming softness. Then, a blocked number calls his phone. Zero declines. It calls again. He blocks it. It calls a third time. This time, the phone answers itself. A cheerful voice speaks. Zero Arlen, former North Star supervisor. Resident of Tower C, current occupant of the glass house. We need to talk about your warehouse miracle. Zero's warm room suddenly feels colder. And waiter. The caller calls himself Bite. He was a systems contractor before the freeze. Now he survives in a hidden villa with a server rack, a private generator, and too much free time. He has evidence from North Star. Not enough to prove how Zero emptied the warehouse. Enough to prove Zero was involved. More importantly, Bite has located the glass house network. He can shut down cameras, open smart locks, disable alarms. Maybe not permanently, long enough for enemies to reach the door. His demand is simple. Food, medicine, warm clothing, delivered regularly. If Zero refuses, Bite releases everything to every surviving device in the city. Zero wants to eliminate him immediately. Yuki warns that blackmailers often leave dead man switches. Zumi gives the useful answer. In the old world, scandals vanished when drowned in bigger scandals. If Bite has one truth, bury it under 100 lies. Zero understands. He uses the glasshouse server to flood local networks with contradictory rumors. Zero stole the warehouse. No, the army did. No, North Star executives faked it. No, it was a foreign satellite weapon. No, it was a cult. No, There was no warehouse. Every version includes different names, dates, methods, and fake evidence. The truth becomes one more rumor in a starving city. Then Zero prepares a delivery for Bite, a backpack of supplies placed outside a villa. A hidden vantage point, a long wait. Bite is cautious. He does not come out for hours. When he finally sends a proxy to grab the bag, Zero does not shoot immediately. He watches. The proxy returns inside. Good. Now he knows the door. Zero approaches through blind angles, using the storm, snow glare, and dimensional vault to kill the house's sensors one by one. Bite is clever, not brave. Once confronted, he panics. Zero secures his drives, notebooks, and emergency broadcast system. By evening, Bite's threat is gone, but his warning remains. The glass house is too dependent on electronics, so Zero orders physical security upgrades. Manual locks, hidden barricades, exterior traps, snowfield alarms, analog backup cameras, trip systems that do not rely on power. Zumi asks when enemies are coming. Zero says, hopefully never. Then he adds the truth. But hope is not a lock. God. Beyond the wealthy ridge is Frostwell, an old rural settlement half buried in snow. Unlike city residents, Frostwell people know cold. They know ice fishing, they know sleds. They know how to move through snow without sinking. They also have a young power user named Nico. Nico can shape snow and wind. The elders treat him like a holy weapon. Nico would rather stay in his room painting tiny figures and talking to imaginary heroes. When Frostwell scouts see Zero's vehicle cross their territory, they attack for supplies. Zero defeats them and takes their sled dogs into Dimensional Vault long enough to break pursuit, then releases them later where they cannot follow. The scouts return humiliated. The elders demand revenge. Nico warns them not to fight Zero. He saw how the stranger swallowed his snowstorm like a door eating wind. The elders hear only one thing. The stranger has food. They gather fighters and march on the glass house. Zero watches them through binoculars. The trap field waits under the snow. First, the front line finds spikes, then alarms, then buried concussive charges, then false safe paths that lead them into deeper snow. Zero does not explain. He lets the field teach. When the elders push forward anyway, he triggers the outer defenses. The assault collapses. Nico arrives late and sees the disaster his elders ignored. He creates an ice wall to save survivors and retreats with them. Zero pursues only long enough to make the lesson unforgettable. Not because he cannot finish them, because a defeated enemy can become useful if someone smarter leads them. That someone might be Nico. Back at Frostwell, the elders blame him. The old chief, dying from the failed assault, admits the truth. Nico warned them. They were greedy. Their dead are on the elders, not the boy. For the first time, Nico is seen not as a useless recluse with a strange power, but as the only one who understood the danger. He contacts Zero. He asks for peace. Zero asks what he can offer. Nico says anything. Zero answers. You. Nico misunderstands and panics. Zero sighs. Your power, idiot. I want your power on my side. That becomes the start of Zero's first true power alliance. The Frostwell fighters are not stupid. That makes them more dangerous. City mobs rush doors because they think numbers are enough. Frostwell scouts test the snow. They probe with poles. They move in staggered lines. They watch the roofline. They send dogs ahead and pull them back when the animals refuse. Zero watches from the upper window and respects them for exactly 3 minutes. Then greed beats training. The elders show the fighters magnified views of the glass house kitchen, hot food, green plants, running water, a woman carrying a tray, a room without frost. The line wavers. Zero sees the moment desire defeats caution. The first trap is not meant to kill, it marks. A burst of red dye stains 3 white coats. Now the defenders know who stepped where. The second trap is sound. A shrill alarm disorients the front line. The third is impact. Snow erupts. People fall. The formation breaks. Only then do the real defenses begin. Nico, watching from far behind, realizes the glass house is not a mansion surrounded by traps. It is a mind. Every safe path is chosen by Zero. Every panic route was anticipated. Every retreat line exposes the next weakness. When the elders order a full push, Nico nearly screams. They are no longer attacking a house. They are feeding themselves to a calculation. Afterward, when Zero offers Nico a path to alliance, the boy accepts not because he is cowardly. He accepts because he finally understands the difference between bravery and walking into a machine that has already solved you. Nico arrives at the glass house alone, slipping twice on the way to the gate. Zero watches through a scope and almost cancels the meeting out of secondhand embarrassment. But Nico came alone. That matters. Zero meets him outside the trap field. No food table. No warm welcome. Just snow, weapons, and terms. Frostwell attacked first. Zero will not forgive the village for free. Nico must work. He must help uncover buried fuel stations, collapsed supply depots, and hidden routes. He must warn Zero if Frostwell plans revenge. In exchange, the village receives food enough to prevent immediate collapse. Nico receives something better than money. Zero opens Dimensional Vault and produces a box of preserved model figures from an abandoned hobby store. Nico nearly cries. The alliance is sealed faster than any treaty in history. Their first mission is a buried fuel station. Nico clears snow with exhausting effort. Zero stores the fuel tanks. Nico watches the entire station vanish and whispers that Zero's power is unfair. Zero says all useful powers are unfair. On the ride back, Nico explains that abilities drain energy. The more he uses his snow shaping, the hungrier he gets. Zero connects the pattern. Ryu's regeneration burns calories. His own dimensional vault strains him when storing energy or moving objects. Nico tires after storms. Food is not just leverage over ordinary people. It is the fuel supply for awakened humans. That means Zero's unlimited meals make him the strongest logistics center in the city. Not because he has the biggest weapon, because every other power user must eventually eat. The system confirms the theory. Awakened energy contact recorded. Food energy conversion module discovered. High-calorie consumables may restore ability stamina. Conversion efficiency scales with dimensional storage level. New progression path available. Awakened logistics. Zero understands the next stage immediately. He does not need to be the strongest fighter in the city. He needs to control the fuel every fighter requires. Nico returns to Frostwell with food and new status. The new village leader tries to control him. Nico nods, smiles, and says he understands. Then he privately sends Zero every word. Zero reads it and decides Nico is foolish, dramatic, and possibly more loyal than anyone else outside the glass house. A useful combination. After Nico returns with food from Zero, Frostwell changes overnight. People who ignored him now visit his door. Men who called him useless ask what Zero said. Women whose families survived because of his ice wall bring him hot broth. Children ask if he really fought the man from the glass house. Nico enjoys the attention for exactly 1 hour before it becomes terrifying. Then the new chief arrives. Chief Derek is not old enough to be wise or young enough to adapt. He takes power because the old chief died and because he speaks loudly before others can think. He says Nico was reckless to meet Zero alone. He says alliances must go through leadership. He says the village cannot look weak. Nico tries to explain that looking weak is better than being dead. Derek slaps him. The room goes silent. Nico could freeze the man's hand to the table. He could bury the doorway. He could leave and take Zero's food route with him. Instead, he lowers his head. Not from submission. From calculation. For the first time, Nico understands what Zero means by useful patience. Derek orders him to report every contact with the glass house. Nico says yes. Then he goes home and sends Zero the entire conversation. Zero replies after 3 minutes. Good. Let him think he owns the leash. Bring me fuel locations tomorrow. Nico stares at the message. Then he laughs so hard he has to cover his mouth. He is still scared of Zero. But now he is beginning to enjoy being useful to someone who sees the board more clearly than the people shouting in front of him. That is the first step in his real loyalty arc. Not friendship, not trust. A shared understanding that stupid leaders get PP killed, and maybe, if Nico learns fast enough, he will not become one. This will always continue to become first. For several days, the glass house stabilizes. Yuki builds a clinic. Zumi works the hydroponic room. Ryu secures Tower C. Nico sends too many messages. Zero trains with Dimensional Vault, learning to absorb and release heat, smoke, and momentum in short bursts. Then Zumi receives one broken call from her younger cousin, Luna Win. 18. Wheelchair user. Computer prodigy. Last known location, Tiensgate Academy, an elite school 22 kilometers away. The call is chaos. Static. Screams. A word repeated again and again. Monster. Then the line dies. Zumi begs Zero to rescue her. Yuki, who has family history with Luna too, supports the request. Zero refuses at first. The glass house has been exposed. Other shelters exist. Power users exist. Leaving the bunker risks everything. Zumi says Luna can secure their network better than any dead hacker's notes. That changes the equation. A rescue for emotion is foolish. A rescue for a security specialist is strategy. Zero agrees. He locks Zumi and Yuki in the deepest safe level while he is gone. Yuki is offended. Zero says being offended is better than being kidnapped. The rescue team is strange. Zero, the man with the food vault. Ryu, the regenerating veteran with strength beyond normal humans. Nico, the snowmancer who talks too much when nervous. 3 awakened people in one vehicle. That should make the mission safe. It does not. As they drive through the frozen city, Zero sees new signs. Tracks too large for wolves. Tunnels dug through ice. Broken walls at the Academy District. And claw marks high on buildings where nothing human could reach. Nico asks what kind of monster they are facing. Zero says maybe an animal evolved. Maybe a human changed. Maybe something worse. Ryu checks his weapon. Then we learn fast. Tiansgate Academy used to be a private school for the wealthy. Dorms. Labs. Indoor gymnasium. A market building. Emergency kitchens. Enough supplies for students to survive longer than most. That is why Luna is still alive. It is also why everyone resents her. Inside the gym, survivors have turned desperation into a courtroom. Luna sits in her wheelchair near the wall, pale from cold and hunger. Her friend Kay protects her as best she can. Other students call Luna a burden. They say too many people died carrying her. They say the teacher should stop wasting energy protecting someone who cannot run. A wealthy student named Dorian claims his father will send a rescue team from a western base. Nobody knows if that base is real. They cling to the idea because hope is easier when it has a name. Their protector is Ms. Vale, a sword instructor who awakened the cutting ability during the freeze. She can fight the creature that haunts the academy. But she cannot be everywhere. When she leaves to search for food, the monster returns. A giant frost lynx pushes through the gym windows. It is smart. It does not chase the still. It hunts movement. The students learn this by losing people. They sacrifice the slow and call it survival. Luna falls from her chair during the panic. The lynx approaches. Miss Vale returns in time and drives it back, but each fight leaves her more exhausted. The students blame Luna again. Then the lynx returns while Ms. Vale is still tired. This time, through the tunnels it dug beneath the snow, 3 outsiders enter behind it: Zero, Ryu, and Nico. Ms. Vale shouts for help. Nico steps forward. Zero stops him. He watches the teacher fight. Her ability is real. Dangerous. Unknown loyalty. Zero does not rush into battles where he does not understand both sides. He orders the team to circle around. They enter the gym from another tunnel and reach Luna. She recognizes Zumi's name and agrees to leave immediately. Then she asks one favor. Stop the fight. Zero studies her. Even now, she is thinking about the person protecting people who hate her. That kind of person is either foolish or rare. Sometimes both. He agrees because making Luna owe him is useful. Nico collapses part of the tunnel ceiling between the lynx and Ms. Vale, separating them. It works. Ms. Vale is furious. She attacks Zero, believing he ruined her chance to finish the monster. Zero absorbs her for one breath into dimensional vault and releases her before the strain overwhelms him. She drops, stunned. He takes her sword because anything that can cut bullets is not something he leaves in angry hands. Now the students understand. The man who came for Luna is not a rescuer. He is another disaster wearing human skin. Dorian grabs Luna's chair and declares, "Nobody leaves unless everyone leaves." Zero turns slowly. The lynx growls somewhere beyond the collapsed wall. The students tighten their grip on Luna. And Zero's expression goes cold. The Academy rescue has just become a hostage negotiation in the middle of a monster's hunting ground. Plaza, if you wanted to come to... Tiansgate Academy is not like Tower C. It did not become a fortress through one man's preparation. It became a shelter by accident. Thick gym walls. Storage closets. Cafeteria reserves. Indoor passages. A teacher strong enough to frighten the lynx. A genius girl who repaired old devices from a wheelchair while people called her useless. a student hierarchy that survived the apocalypse by becoming uglier. That makes it interesting to Zero. Every shelter reveals what kind of people built it. Tower C became disciplined because Zero controlled food. The glass house became safe because Noku had money but failed to build trust. Frostwell survived because of tradition and cold knowledge, then nearly died from pride. Tiensgate survives because one exhausted teacher refuses to abandon children who are becoming less worthy of protection each day. Miss Vale is the opposite of Zero. She gives protection first and asks questions later. That is why the students are alive. It is also why they are spoiled enough to blame her when food runs out. Luna sees the pattern better than anyone. She cannot run from the lynx. She cannot overpower bullies, so she observes. She knows the lynx tracks movement. She knows the tunnels connect to the astronomy building. She knows the teacher is near collapse. She knows Dorian's Western-based story is half rumor, half ego. When Zero arrives, Luna does not see a hero. She sees logistics. A vehicle, weapons, a food source, 2 power users. A man ruthless enough to leave others behind. That should terrify her. Instead, it gives her a possible route out. Luna agrees to leave because she knows staying means eventual death. But she asks Zero to stop the fight because Miss Vale is the only reason anyone survived long enough for rescue to matter. That request tells Zero everything. Luna is not soft. She preserves useful assets. She thinks like someone who can help run a fortress. That is why he saves the teacher instead of ignoring her. Not mercy. Recruitment. Right. Before the lynx breaks through the gym again, the real monster is already inside. It wears school uniforms. It speaks in whispers. It counts who eats. It watches who gets carried. Luna hears everything. She hears students say her wheels make too much noise. She hears them say Kay wastes strength helping her. She hears Dorian promise rescue from a Western base and then quietly hide food in his jacket. She hears Ms. Vale coughing behind the storage curtain after every patrol. Luna does not cry where they can see. That would feed them. Instead, she repairs a radio with cold fingers and pretends not to notice when someone steals one of her battery cells. Kay notices. Kay wants to fight. Luna tells her not to. Arguments burn energy. Energy is life. Kay hates that answer because it is correct. When the wealthy girl Lysa tells Luna she should sacrifice herself during the next attack, the gym goes quiet enough to hear the wind outside. Lysa says what others have been thinking. That gives her power. Luna looks at her and asks how long Lysa can run at full speed without slipping on the frozen court. Lysa sneers. Luna says the lynx learned the sound of panic 2 attacks ago. It chases groups first, then stragglers. If they throw her out, the lynx will not stop at one meal. It will use the open door. That shuts some mouths. Not Lysa's. She says, Luna always talks like she is above everyone. Luna says no. She talks like she wants them alive, despite how hard they make it. Then the window frame bends inward. Everyone turns. A white paw hooks over the broken ledge. This time, nobody has to argue about sacrifice. The lynx has come to choose for them. Personnel. Luna Wynn has met powerful people before. Her family knew politicians, investors, researchers, and the kind of men who spoke softly because everyone else was paid to listen. Zero Arlen does not feel like them. He enters the gym like someone who has already counted exits, bodies, weapons, and lies before taking his second breath. The students rush him with questions. Can he take them out? Does he have food? Does he know the Western base? Did their parents send him? Zero ignores almost all of it. That frightens Luna more than shouting would have. A cruel person enjoys attention. A rescuer offers comfort. Zero is neither. He looks for the objective. When his eyes land on her chair, Luna feels the room shift. Not pity, assessment. He sees the wheelchair, then the repaired radio in her lap. Then the improvised battery pack taped beneath the seat. Then the wires she used to connect the gym lights to a backup switch. His expression changes by a fraction. Luna knows that look. It is the look of someone realizing the broken object is actually a machine, he says Zumi sent him. Luna asks for proof. He gives her a phrase only Zumi would use when annoyed. That is enough. He asks if she wants to leave. Every student in the gym goes silent, some because they want to be chosen. Some because they resent that she was. Luna says yes. Then she looks toward Ms. Vale, fighting the lynx beyond the broken wall. But not without her. Zero's face hardens. Luna explains fast. The teacher is the only reason anyone survived. The lynx is intelligent. The students are unstable. If Ms. Vale falls, the gym becomes bait. Zero watches the fight for 3 seconds. Luna can almost see him calculating whether the teacher is worth the effort. Then he agrees. That is when Luna understands the kind of man he is. Not kind, not careless, but capable of recognizing value quickly. In the apocalypse, that might be close enough to mercy to survive. Who said? Verds in experts and distribble. Dorian thinks he has leverage. He thinks Zero cares about Luna enough to obey. He thinks numbers matter. He thinks the teacher will protect them from both the lynx and the stranger. But Dorian has misunderstood the new world. Zero did not come because he is kind. He came because Luna is useful. Useful people are worth saving. People who threaten useful people become obstacles. Behind Zero, Ryu flexes his repaired hands. Nico looks nervously toward the tunnel where snow dust begins falling from the ceiling. Ms. Vale struggles to stand without her sword. The lynx is coming back. Luna, trapped in her chair, looks at Zero and says only one thing. If you fight them here, the monster wins. Zero pauses. That is the first thing she says. That is not emotional. It is tactical. The gym is unstable. The lynx reacts to motion. The students are panicked. The teacher is exhausted. One wrong move turns everyone into bait. Zero smiles faintly. Luna is even more useful than he hoped. He raises one hand. Not toward Dorian, toward the lights. Dimensional vault opens. The gym goes dark. Everyone freezes. In total darkness, movement means death. Zero speaks softly. Now we find out who wants to live badly enough to stay silent. Somewhere beyond the wall, the frost lynx stops moving, listening, waiting, hungry. And the only man with unlimited food has just turned the entire gym into a trap. When Zero kills the gym lights, the students learn a new kind of fear. The darkness itself is not the danger. Their own bodies are. Every breath sounds loud. Every shoe scrape might call the lynx. Every panicked hand might push someone into motion. Dorian's grip on Luna's chair loosens because suddenly he understands that a hostage who cannot run is less useful when the monster hunts movement. Zero's voice moves through the black gym like a blade. Luna leaves with me. The teacher gets her sword back after we exit. Anyone who moves before I say so becomes bait. A student sobs. Another whispers that he can't do this. Zero says nothing. The lynx answers for him with a low sound from the broken wall. Ms. Vale is the first to understand. She stops struggling, her breathing slows. Ryu moves without noise toward the exit route. Nico shapes a thin layer of snow over loose debris so footsteps will not crackle. Zero opens Dimensional Vault, just enough to absorb small sounds around Luna's chair. Not a full silence field. That would drain him too quickly. Just enough. Luna notices. Her eyes sharpen. She has never seen a power like this. Zero sees her noticing and knows the rescue was worth it. Then Dorian panics. He lunges for Zero, not because it is smart, but because privileged people often mistake losing control for danger. The lynx moves instantly. Zero catches Dorian by the collar and throws him sideways, away from Luna. The lynx follows the movement. Chaos erupts again. But this time, Zero wanted it pointed elsewhere. He uses the confusion to move Luna through the exit tunnel. Ryu blocks the first wave of students trying to force their way after them. Ms. Vale retrieves her sword from the floor where Zero kicks it back to her. Their eyes meet. She understands the trade. He saved Luna. He returned her weapon. Now she owes him the rear guard. Outside, the snow tunnels shake as the lynx slams into the gym behind them. Luna asks if he has a plan for getting through the academy grounds. Zero says yes. Nico asks what it is. Zero looks back at the collapsing gym, then at the wheelchair tracks in the snow. We let the monster chase the loudest people. Then we take the quiet road home. Luna studies him for a long second. You're not a good person. Zero pushes her chair into the tunnel. Good people starved first. Useful people get rescued. Decide which one you want to be. Behind them, the lynx roars. Ahead, the tunnel opens into white darkness. And somewhere beyond that snow, the glass house waits with endless food, locked doors, and a new question. Once Zero brings home a hacker who can secure his fortress, what will she discover inside the system that gives him unlimited meals? The tunnel out of Tiansgate Academy is too narrow for comfort. Ryu has to walk sideways in some sections. Nico keeps muttering that if the ceiling collapses, he will haunt everyone involved. Luna's wheelchair cannot pass through the worst parts, so Zero stores it in Dimensional Vault and carries her on a folded emergency sled made from gym equipment. Luna watches that happen with sharp, silent eyes. She does not ask how. Not yet. Smart people save questions until answers matter. Behind them, Ms. Vale holds the rear with her reclaimed sword. She does not trust Zero. Zero does not trust her either. That makes the arrangement honest. The Frost Lynx follows through parallel tunnels, scraping at walls, testing routes, never rushing blindly. Luna whispers that it is hurting them. Zero asks toward where. She says she does not know. Then the tunnel ahead opens into the Academy's underground tram platform. Old emergency lights flicker. Frozen advertisements hang from the walls, and at the far end of the platform, something waits. Not the Lynx. A metal door with a powered keypad. Luna stares at it. She says the Academy never had this on any public map. Yuki's voice crackles over the radio from the glass house, asking for status. Zero looks at the hidden door. Then at Luna. Then at the tunnel behind them where the Lynx growls again. This rescue mission was supposed to bring back one hacker. Now it has found a sealed facility under a school that should not have one. Zero asks Luna if she can open it. Luna's hands hover over the keypad. Maybe. But if this door still has power after months of freezing, it belongs to someone bigger than a school. The Lynx slams into the tunnel behind them. Ms. Vale braces. Ryu steps forward. Nico raises both hands, snow spiraling around his fingers. Zero places one palm on the hidden door. Dimensional Vault hums, reacting to something inside. Not food. Not metal. Something familiar. Something stored in the same impossible category as his power. Luna looks at him. What are you? Zero does not answer. The keypad lights turn green by themselves. The sealed door begins to open. And deep beneath Tien's Gate Academy, a second system voice speaks from the darkness. Arc storage node detected. Unauthorized host approaching. Cut the episode there. And why but the strong Norway and follow.